what's your greatest obstacle in your life so far?
I think there's probably two. One was in general just moving from, I'm German and I moved to Australia 13 years ago. And I guess 13 years ago, I didn't thought it was a big thing. And for the first couple of years, it wasn't. But I guess after a while, you realize it is actually a really big change. And all the adjustment that needed to happen happened a bit later. And I think I just realized really a couple of years later what it actually means to really leave everything behind and settle. And then really be comfortable with the fact that all your family and all your friends are so far away. So that was a big change in general. But I think obstacle really more, even harder was probably when I decided to leave my partner when my son was only 2 years old. That was definitely, I guess, the biggest thing for us, for me.
Can I ask you, because I know there's a lot of people in here and they go through, what was the what was the defining thing? Because it would be hard. You've got a child together. What was the thing that made you realize that I just can't do this anymore?
As you said, yeah, it's a process, obviously. It's nothing that you just decide. It was sitting there and it was going on for probably almost 2 years. And I was hoping that we can figure it out and find a way to stay together, because that's what you want if you have a little child, obviously. But it was just repeating the same pattern between us, the same pattern of not being able to communicate, of not becoming this unit again. And I find it heartbreaking to not having this feeling of we and the child and our common child, we are a unit, we belong together. It was like me and the child and him and the child. And it just never felt like it's us. And I found it so painful to see and thinking like, I just don't want that for my child. I don't want my child to, grow up thinking this is how we do love and how we do relationships. And it repeated so many times. And for some reason, we were just not able to break through and change it. And I think it happened. So I went away for my first weekend away without my son, just a yoga retreat. I needed some time to myself. And I think having this time away, it just brought everything up. And when I came home and the same thing repeated again, it was like, oh my God, it won't change. We're not able to really come to that place and be the family or the unit that I really want us to be. And I guess that was this weekend away, having time to myself, coming back to the same situation. I think that was the moment when I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that anymore.
Right, because what a lot of families do, like I can give an example of someone in my life, is that the kids got to teenagers and they turned around and said, Mum and Dad, we know you're not happy anymore. Like we know you're together for us. You need to end this. And I think it's very brave for you to make that choice of going, well, how do I model this for my son? How do I negotiate this? Like it's really actually quite a fearless decision to make.
Yeah, it's exactly what I didn't want. I didn't want my son to spend 10, 12, 15 years with us, not being the best parents we can be. Because I believe if we are just roommates, if we just share a place, but we're not coming from a space of love, then as you know, kids know that, they feel that, and then they take it for granted, and then they feel bad for us, and it's like we're creating a whole lot of new other problems. And I think making the decision when you think it is the right decision, and I made this decision really and I think that's the most important thing, with a long-term vision. At this moment, it was horrible, it was hard, it was tough, it was sad, it was everything, but I knew like long-term, it's better for all three of us. And that's what kept me going. That's what was in my mind. I said, in a couple of years, all three of us will be so happy that we did that. And we can start again, and we all come from a place of love, and maybe go into a new relationship, or maybe whatever happens, but it will be much better. And this is exactly what we created. And that is so beautiful that I can now see everyone. It was tough back then, but looking back, everyone is happy now. And I think that's what we all want, isn't it?
And what I hear is that you've invested in something that's created an amazing future for the three of you, because what I find quite remarkable is that you have a relationship with your ex-partner, whereas my mum and dad do not even talk. So when we have a wedding, like my dad turned around and said to my sister, you need to pick, who do you want at it, me or her? And it was my sister's day. And I remember we even went to a baptism event and my dad decided to come. And the two were fighting. Well, mum wasn't fighting. My dad was annoyed and saying all these things about her. And then my mum could feel it. And then the day became not about my nephew, it came about their relationship.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is why I'm sharing this, is because, and we've talked about it briefly, and I want people to hear this because it's really important. How did you cultivate a relationship between you and your husband, ex? Because reality is the person that suffers in the middle is your child. If you two are bittering at each other, it's your son that feels the after effects and the energy that's coming off. So really, can you give us some insight into the secrets of your success? I'd love
Yeah,
it.
thank you that you call it a success. That is nice to hear that. Yeah, I think one is what I mentioned is that we try not to get caught up in the now, what is happening right now, and in the feelings that I'm feeling right now. Because as I said, I felt guilty for, I woke up in the morning and I felt guilty because I was the one who tore this family apart. But I didn't stay there. I just said I was always looking at, no, we will be fine in a few months, in a few years, it will be. So having that as one thing. And the other thing is that my ex-partner, so the father of my son, we as parents, we've been a unit all the time. We never had different opinions about how we want to raise them, about school, about anything. Any decision that we made it together. And everything that happens in my house that was important for my son, I would tell him straight away, look, this happened today. Even little things like, he's not allowed to have the iPad for the next 5 days, just letting you know this happened. How you deal in your house, it's your thing. But right now we have this because this and this. Or when they start to get a little bit cheeky and they try to play out one or the other. Our son is hardly ever doing that because it never worked. Because we're always on the same side. Always, with everything, with holidays, with school, with friends, with everything. So I know exactly what is happening when my son is with him, and he knows exactly what's happening when he's here. So he can't even play this game with us, and there's no need for it because we always say, look, mom and dad always on the same side, and so this create really, I guess, boundaries for all of us. So we know exactly, how to move forward, what to do. We always know what the other person thinks, and all important things, as I said, we make the decisions together. And I think that's really important that the child always sees mom and dad, they're still the same people. They still talk together, they laugh together, they celebrate my birthday together. I call him, his dad, while my son is with me, and we have a chat and we discuss about things and we make a joke. For him, nothing is like, oh my God, I can't talk about mom while I'm with dad, or the other way around, or there's never been a negative word. Of course, we sometimes have serious discussion without my son and have to talk about things, but never in front of our son, and never, we never leave anything unclear, I guess, so that we don't know how to move forward.
This healthy relationship, that there's no competition going on, because I know that would happen, particularly my dad's quite competitive, so he used to try to compete with my mum like constantly, and I hear about this with other parents, is that someone's trying to buy more and more so they can get the love of the child more than anything else. But it's quite obvious that you and your ex do not have that competition, and you're on a level playing field.
No, I don't think we ever done that. We're quite different, and I think it's a good thing. So when my son is with me, we do different things, and he probably get different input than he get with his dad, and I think it's a great thing. So he, has exposure to different things, but it's never been like, oh, I did this with him, and now I'm this and I buy him this. No, it's literally like, what do we give him for birthday this year? Okay, let's do this. You do this and I do this. Okay, great. Or what do we do for, Christmas? Let's do one big thing. And then my mom gives him that, and my grandma. So we talk about all these things. It's never like suddenly this huge thing for Christmas that appears, and we know exactly what's happening. We know what presents he will get, and it's very open. There's nothing like behind the back, because I don't see the point in it. It's not about competition.
Saying that communication's the key, like you constantly communicating. So. Yeah, like and to me, that's it, because as kids, like I know even as a teenager, I used to try to put my parents against each other, even though they were divorced. You can see those you sort of manipulate the situation to your advantage. So I'd pit my mom against my dad, or my dad would let me do a lot more. But what I'm hearing, and this is every relationship, even if they're still together, it's really important that we communicate and that we're on the same level page. That's like what I'm hearing, that both of you sit with the same values, and ultimately in the end, it's about your son.
Exactly. And I think that was really important for both of us. Even though I said our relationship probably fell apart because we were not good about talking about us and our emotions, but there was never the problem to talk about when it comes to our son and what's best for him and what are our opinion on how we want to do things. And that was always really well communicated. It's probably a bit of a, you wonder, why can it happen? Why do we work it out here and we couldn't work it out here? It is what it is. But when it comes to my son, we always make sure it's, the best interest for him.
I know that you actually get along with your ex-partner's new partner, and they have a child together. And I find that quite remarkable. And you talked about you had to make peace with the fact before it even happened that they came together, that potentially your ex would find somebody else. How did you do that? With that, like removing your ego, and to do that, like.
Look, I think this is something that when people ask me why it's working out so well, I think that is the biggest learning, the biggest lesson, but something I believe we have to deal upfront. So when it was my decision to leave this relationship, and he's a good-looking man, he's just beginning of his 40s. Of course, there will be at some point another woman. So I really started to think about how I'm going to deal with that before I made this decision, because now it's going to happen. It was so obvious. It was, it will happen at some point. And I thought, how I'm going to react to that, because that will mean that this person, whoever comes into his life, will at some point, have contact to my son. They might even live together. I didn't go all the way, like they might get married, but she will have influence, on my child. How I'm going to deal with that? And I just realized that I really have to think about it before and make the decision if I will be able to do that, if I will be able to handle it, because I didn't want to, separate and then 2 years in suddenly start this big drama when another person comes into his life. And then so I think it's really important to do it up front. And I guess it's a bit of how do you say that? Is it an ego thing? Yes, it is. But I guess when I said I always wanted us to be as happy as possible, then I just have to, allow the other person to be happy with another person. It is, and I guess it's just life today. There's so many, parents divorce. There's so many patchwork families, and I'm okay with that as long as I know that the other person obviously is a decent person. It takes care of my son, all of this. And that was the first thing when he told me that he is seeing someone, or has been seeing someone for a couple of months, that it became serious. The first thing I said, I want to meet her. It wasn't like, oh my God, I don't want to know who it is. I was straight away, okay, if you think it's serious, can I please meet her before, she meets my son? So I want to make sure, I want to know who that person is.
Situation, and what I suspect, and you can enlighten me on this, is that your son was able to accept her too, based on the fact that you could accept her, if that makes sense. So it's all his reactions based on how you see her. And also too, I know this is from me coming from an ex point of view. I used to feel guilty because not that my mum, it's more my dad. My mum always in relationships, not my dad. But I always felt guilty talking about the third party to my dad, because I could see the pain landing on his chest. Even my dad of denial the fact that he was in love with my mum. He still was in love with my mum. And every time I feel like complicated, and looking back as a little child, it was hard to negotiate. How do I talk to dad about this without hurting his feelings?
I think as I said, because it was a long process for us to literally get separated. For me, I was pretty detached already from my ex. I still think he's an amazing man and I really, really like him, but it wasn't like that I was still hurting from, I really want this relationship. So there was a bit of a distance between us, so that I could look at him as that you're an amazing person, but I don't want to be with you anymore. So I can give that space to someone else. And I guess because we kept it quite open and I was able to meet her from time to time, it was, it all went slow. It wasn't like, there's a new person, she's moving in. This is, it was really slowly. And I guess that was important for my ex as well, because of our child and because of everything that happened. So I think it had happened quite healthy and quite naturally.
My understanding is you do do you do Christmas or do different special occasions with one another? You celebrate time Together,
We
you
do
and
it
your
together.
partner,
Yeah.
ex-partner.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and like I keep talking about my experience because that's all I can draw upon. But as an adult, looking back at all those instances where things, from the time that my mum and dad did get along until it ruptured when my mum started another relationship with someone when I was about 12, that's when it broke. Life was more comfortable when mum and dad got along, and when you didn't have to pick sides, because we're just talking
Yeah.
about egos. What happens is, for me, and this is talking my experience, what I could see is ego was coming into play, and it will pick me, because if I picked mum or if I picked dad, it meant that I loved them more than the other. But each relationship
Yeah.
is different with each parent. Like, they all provided different things. You know, my mum is the maternal, loving, hold me in the hand, whereas my dad taught me to go out and experience joy and, I mean, be reckless and be fearless. And I
Yeah.
can't pick the difference between the two. But then from them forcing me to make that choice, I had to pick. And in the end, I don't even have a relationship with my dad. It's based on the fact of how he asked, because my mum was there every step of the way and my dad wasn't. But ideally, in my little heart and my little child's world, I want not my mum and dad together. I just want to be able to cuddle my dad and my
Of
mum
course.
and not have to
Of
pick.
course. Of course. Yeah. And I think it's so important that we don't put any decisions on the kids. It's just totally not fair. Absolutely not fair. And that also that we give them some space to get used to the new ideas. You know, my son was really small, and it took, you know, you could see development. In the beginning, he was really small. He didn't understand. And then, you know, he became older and older, and the other person was, you know, just around, and they started to moving in. And then, so there was phases of where he was very, very relaxed, and then phases when, for example, he started kindy, and then they started to talk about families in kindy. And I think it was the first time that really he realized, because in our field of friends, that no one was separated at this point. So he suddenly thought he's a very odd child. Something is really different. And that's when he started to just first time realize, oh, mom and dad, you know, not together, and there's another person. And then he got a little bit upset because he thought he's the only child where it's like this, you know. And I really had to find other little friends in his school where the kids were also, where the parents were also separated, and get him used to the, you know, and just really talk about all these things. And then he started to, quite late, to start all these questions, because when he was 2, 3, 4, he was too young. And then when he was able to really think about it and kind of communicate, that's when we actually start talking about it. And because I guess we all talked about it, so he was then kind of really relaxed with the whole thing again. But it's interesting to see there's phases.
To share that, because I didn't even think of that, because they talk about the impact of what divorce has, or separation, because it's not just divorce now, it's separation
Yeah.
of partners,
Yeah.
of different age groups. And they say that the years that were most affected are the teenage years more than anything else. It's then when parents separate, when, you know, that they're going through their developmental stages themselves. And I didn't even realize about the impact of how they was, and it makes me think of my experience. I grew up with people that their parents were all together. And for me, because it was just my mum, so I'm probably going to put this out because my dad was working away and I'd see him once a year because he's working internationally, is that I was scared of other dads. Like, I was
Oh,
mortified. I
wow.
didn't know how to react because I didn't have any male influence in my life. So when we go into that situation, it would be strange to me, and a dad would make a joke and I didn't know how to take it. And so what I'm probably really saying is, if you are a single mum out there and your partner, ex-partner, doesn't have a big role model, try to find another role model for them to understand. Like, and that could be even for a male that's watching this and that they're looking after their children. You also need that influence. And it sounds, and well, it works beautifully with the two of you, that you both share it so that your son does have those role models to bounce off.
Yeah. You know, I always think it takes a village to raise a child, and especially if you know, in Australia here, there's so many people with, you know, family overseas, and we don't have our family here. And I think it's really important then that what you just said, that we find other people and friends and role models that also support us in raising our kids. And I always made sure that there is, you know, other male role models as well for him. Of course, he has his dad, who is amazing, but also in my circle of friends, that there are other males that you know, have a relationship with him, so that he grows up with, yeah, different role models, different males in his surrounding. And I think that's really important. And that also not just the mom and the dad, there's always more people to actually be there.
And that's something I find, even though we've got this revolution of social media and I love it, but it's created an isolation, and we don't tend to branch out and go into groups of people, because you're right, there's that village. We really need a village to raise our child, and that they
Totally.
can take on all these different values of different people. And that's what I think I love about my childhood, and I suspect it's the same with yours. It was really interconnected. So there was things I learned, like from my mum's friends, that my mum couldn't teach me about, and and then same with my dad's friends and my family. And it's like you said, it's so important to have this village and these conversations, like the conversation we're having right now. Like, I think it's really important for me. I'm very open with my life, and if anybody has any questions, I always go forward, because I'm hoping that my story, like your story, can help another person to navigate something with ease.
Yeah, I think it's very open that we encourage, especially single moms or single parents, to ask for help. I think that is the thing that people find really hard, or don't feel comfortable with. And I think it's really important that we just put it out there. And yeah, I think it's something that I try to do quite early as well. And I say, look, I'm just by myself. I need help. Do you have an hour here? Or can you support me with that? Or I think this is something that we really need to encourage people to do that more often.
I love swearing. I say, you fucking do it. If you're listening and you're a single mum, you do it, because I watch my mum try to do it with 6 children. Do it with 6 children on her own, like. And what I always do is I hate seeing the pain on my mum's face, because she wished she became a police officer, and I always talk about this. And I was at the airport the other day, and my sister wanted to move to London, and she got there, and my mum was crying. My mum was crying because she was saying, look, I don't have the money to go visit her. I can't,
Aww.
And I was like, and we as children give her what we can. Like, we're always, and I said, look, I'll pay for a trip. But the reality is, I know there's more satisfaction in the fact is that she could use her own money to fly over there. And what she did, and this is what my story is short, is she would never ask for help, not even her own family. And she battled and did everything hard. And in that sacrifice, she didn't get to do the things that she wanted to do. And I think it's really important. And I think it's more important as a single mum, because I've got a husband that I can lean on to, that you ask people for help so that you do the things you want to do, because doing the things you want to do gives permission for your child to do it in the future too.
And also it fills up your cup. It's so important with moms in general, not single moms, but I guess moms in general, that we always come last. We don't take time out, and we never fill up our cup. And when my cup is empty, there's nothing I can give. But the more I can, just ask, we can just take my son for an hour, take him to the playground, so I can just, whatever I need to do. Maybe I just need to sleep, maybe I could do yoga, maybe I just need to read a book and go to the beach. Fill up my cup, and then be there again for my child, and be present again, and have actually the energy to be the person I want to be. And I guess most people feel a bit like, I can't just ask for help and then do something for myself. How dare I to enjoy myself for an hour while someone is, looking after my child or something? That doesn't make any sense, because the child, if you tell your child, oh, you go with them and go to the playground, he's happy anyway. And we just fill up our cup and then come back and be happy to see our child again. So I think it's very important to, take time out as well. Find those little pockets.
Yeah, those little pockets, and don't use those little pockets to clean your bloody house.
No,
do the cooking. That's not self-care. It's what you said, Svenja. It is the yoga, reading a book, or just having a mindful cup of tea, breathing in and out by your nose, and not having to think. Because I know so many mums that use their pocket of time to do the stuff around their house.
I know.
And the reality is that to-do list is always there. It's always growing. And it never gets done.
That's
do,
right.
Do you not agree? Like, it's like that pile of washing. You'll wash it, and then again the next day it's as big as it was. It doesn't matter. But on this note, I want to go into something that I read, like the power of saying yes. Like, I know I love following your page and reading things, and I know there's 2 things I love. The one that the open relationship you have with your son, and the way you had it go live, where you had a conversation where you could ask things, and it really showed the great work that you're doing as a mum. It's hard, and you're bringing a beautiful soul that has a voice, that's not afraid to be him. Like, how do you do that? How do you bring, because I can see it in a 10-year-old, how do you bring a child that can be himself in this day and age where everyone, well, really society is trying to deconstruct you, feel like you're not worthy so you can overconsume? How do you make him, how do you do what you're doing?
I think for me it was important to, as I said, to give him a lot of input and take him to as many things that obviously are kids appropriate, but take him to, when I teach yoga, and I often take him and he's just around there. Mindfulness, I take him to events, I take him to festivals. I want him to meet people and be comfortable around people of all age, not just kids and teenagers and older people, and just explore himself and be comfortable who he is in all these different scenarios. And I could just really see in the last 2 years how comfortable he is now with around people and talk to people, and really, not be too shy and just express himself. And it's beautiful to see. And I guess we have this, and by doing so, I still treat him as a child, of course, but we just have these really beautiful conversations. And when he sees me work, sometimes he just comes and says, "What do you do?" And I try to explain it, and he kind of, tries to understand what I'm doing, and he asks questions about, why I'm doing it, and if I like it, and who I work with, and all these little things. So he's just very open-minded, I guess, because he's got all these different influences, and I guess this is just something that he's just very curious about everything. And so we have this conversation, and he's 10 now, so you can have proper conversation with the 10-year-old, and it's just beautiful.
A beautiful quote yesterday. It was about children. You're not meant to be their teachers. You're actually meant to be their partners in life. And that's what it sounds like. The two of you have a partnership, and you navigate life and you stream through it beautifully.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I take him with me whenever I can, and let him explore and experience things that I think are important for him, as everything around that's healthy, and music and dance and joy and celebration and all these things. So I think it's just really for him finding his place in the world, and then really find out what he enjoys, because I think there's so much more than just the typical things that we usually do with our kids. There's so many beautiful communities, and where we can take our kids and show them the beautiful sides of the world, and I guess the more they see, the more they learn, the more they find what really is important for them and what's fun for them. And just see, like, the older he gets, the more he really can express himself and finds what really makes him.
Concept, you are doing conscious parenting, like you're allowing your son to be who he is rather than who you think he should be. Is there any times that you've ever come to a point that you've clashed, where you've wanted to do something, or he's wanted to do something that necessarily didn't agree with where you're at, and how did you navigate that? Is there a way or trick?
Of course, we clash like every other parents or kids and parents all the time. And there's also a lot. You work too much, or why are you working again? And we have that, like anyone else. We have that all the time, of course. I think it's important that we learn as parents to say no as well to our kids. That it's not always whatever they want and everything the way they want it, but really find this balance of, yes, I allow you a lot, but there's also ways where I just say no, and a no is a no, and not be afraid of saying no to our kids. And I read this book where there's a lot of things where we as parents always try, maybe later, because we don't want to say no, and we don't want to be the mean person. And I think it's so important that we learn to say no, because for a child it's much easier to understand no than understand yes, maybe, maybe later, maybe not. Instead of no, it's not working. We don't do that today, or no, we never do that, or yes, maybe we can, but definitely not today. No. And I guess there's sometimes they don't like to hear it. We don't like to hear it, but I think it's much easier for us to know where we are, and it's the same with them.
Glad you said that, because I'm trying to navigate it because my son's so young, with no, and it's a toddler response. It's just like this whole big catastrophe goes on, and now he thinks saying no is the funniest thing to say to me. Like, it's no. And I think he sometimes says no when it means yes. But you're right. Like, I always trying to, even though I know kids of the same age they work with, I don't say the truth. I try to navigate in a way that the blow doesn't land. But it's a reality of life. Like, it's like your child, my child, is going to face no. but we really have to teach them tenacity and resilience. So that when somebody says no, well, I just have to navigate a different way to get where I am, rather than thinking it's this linear straight line in life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the more they practice it and they just know what it is, no is no, okay, then we do something else, fine. Okay, good with me. I guess it's just something getting their head around it, yeah.
Well, what we're talking about now, let's talk about the power of yes. Now, I know from what I understand, the power of yes has changed your life in so many ways. Is that right?
Yes.
I love it. Yes. Because people are afraid to say yes. We overthink things. We go into the fear. Like, it's just exhausting. And then in that, we cut off our energetic flow and the abundance that we're entitled to, because it's got to come through sometimes through making that yes, stating that yes, like jumping in and saying yes.
I think it has a lot to do with knowing your values, being really clear on your values. Because if you have them really, really clear, saying yes is a lot easier. But if I know my values and if I know exactly where I want to go and how I want to feel, I always bring it back. That's one of the things that I love to do with people when I start working with them around mindfulness. Is I want people to become really clear on their 5 favorite feelings, not values, but feelings. Say, how do you really want to feel? And it's a process. It takes a while to figure that out. But if you ask people, often they wouldn't know. They really have to think about. So for me, it's like being healthy, being connected, being successful, being inspired. And for me, if I have to make a decision, I can go back to those 4 feelings and go, will that decision bring me closer to feeling connected and healthy and successful and inspired? Or does it bring me away from feeling that? And when I know it brings me closer, even if it is a little bit scary and it's something new, I can say yes, because I know it will take me to where I want to go. But if I have no idea what my values are and no idea what I actually really want, really on an emotional level as well, then I never trust my gut feeling. And then saying yes is so much harder, because it's all the self-doubt all the time. But if it's really like, yes takes me there, no takes me there, okay, yeah, let's go there. That's where I want to go. Then it becomes easier.
Those feelings, because like you said, like it's real. We think we know feelings, but there are actually thousands of words to describe feelings, rather than we tend to just go to anger, sad, joy. Like, how did you get into knowing that those are your 5 top feelings? Like, how did you
reflect? So what I do is I ask people, and that's what I would do myself. I do it for years, and I probably do it maybe now every 4, 5, 6 months again, to see if something has changed. And it's like, write down all your favorite feelings, like 20 or 30 of them: happy, joy, successful, healthy, laughed, all of them. Write them all down. Then bring them down to 10. And then it's going to be really hard. Then you bring them down to 5. And that's where it's really get tricky, because then you really have to go into, what does happy really means for me? What does joyful really means for me? That's something we really have to sit with. It's not done in 5 minutes. It's literally, sometimes maybe it takes a couple of days to go back to those and go, wait, is it actually happy that I want to feel? Or is it actually joyful that I really feeling, what does this word, what does that feeling means for me? And then put them up on your wall and look at them every day. And maybe after a week you say, oh, actually I have to change one of them. But then really looking at them every day, so that when I wake you up in the middle of the night and ask, what are your favorite feelings? You just want to know them. Because that means you're really aligned with them, and you've really embodied them. And it's easy for you then to make the decision, because you just know exactly, the feeling is, yeah, I know exactly how I want to feel. You have really embodied this. And then you can move forward and say, yeah, I don't want that, or I want that. So it's really this little process of breaking it down from many to 10 to 5.
Thinking is, for me, this is how I'm rationalizing in my brain, is that I have to go and see, well, what do those feelings feel like in me too? Like, do they make me feel comfortable? Well, what is joy? When have I experienced joy? Like, and exactly. Probably put it to different emotions. Hey, Rochelle, that different experiences in my life that I can draw upon to see, well, did I like that or not? Because feelings are really hard. Like, I know I was in acting school in New York, and I thought I knew feelings until I got into this scenario, because there's such a vast array, and I would confuse so many things. I would confuse resentment with anger, but they actually are 2 different things. And like you just pointed out, joy and happiness. Or there's love and contentment. Like, I thought they were the same, but they're quite different.
And it's different for everyone, you know, you can't
Yes.
just my definition is totally different to yours. So it's really, as you said, it's really, I guess, getting out of your head, getting into your body. Where do I feel this feeling? How does it feel? And as you said, I think it's always good to go back to a situation. What was it that I really felt there? Why, you know, was I so happy and excited? And what exactly happened there? What was this feeling? And really, yeah, connecting the dots. And yeah, then from time to time, once you've got this feeling, you know, checking back every few months and go, is it still this? Because they can change, like values, they can change. Mine haven't hardly changed. There's only one that it changed after a couple of years. But it's interesting to do that from time to time again and see which words are coming up.
Has changed, you change, evolve, and like I know I dramatically changed after becoming a mother. I never thought family would be one of my values. Never. Like I was like, no, never family, but it is. It's like one of my number one values. Like my top 5 values is family because, and that's any experience. It's not just about becoming a parent. There's all different things that change who we are day in and day out. And it's really important to have that check-in. And I love that you mentioned that, and I can get very analytical. I'd love to get into my head and overanalyze feelings, but feelings are actually feeling. So they're meant to be felt in your heart, in your body, not intellectualized. No. They're meant to be in here. And I suspect you know that too well. The people you've worked with particularly, like trying to get them back in here rather than up here.
Exactly. That's the whole, I guess, idea of mindfulness and yoga is getting people out of their head and getting them into their body, which still is hard then when you're in your body, what you're going to do with it. You still have to allow yourself then to feel, because obviously we don't want to feel, or most people don't, because that's scary, you know, and that's uncomfortable. And we don't want to feel the things that are coming up. So we stay in our head. So it's much easier for us to control. But I guess really practicing getting out of the head, getting into your body, it's actually really beautiful. And then that is where we actually get to know ourselves.
Through your mindfulness training and being a yoga teacher, you would know too how important it is that when that feeling comes up, you actually don't ignore it, you process it. Because when you process it, your body, you overcome it. And so therefore it organically leaves. Whereas if you ignore it, it's still bubbling or percolating in the background.
It becomes bigger and bigger. Yeah, absolutely.
And especially I found in my experience with yoga, I used to be a Bikram teacher, but now I'm a bit crazy about yin. But it doesn't matter what style of yoga, is that when you're in the practice of yoga, your memories, your emotions are stored in your muscles. So you can be doing a pose and not even anticipate, and you can be back to something that happened when you were 5 years old. And it's come up without you even knowing. And that's why it's so important that you go through and you process those emotions, because they stay in your body. They stay in there for a lifetime.
Yeah, you probably had that. You've been in the pose and you thought you're totally happy, and suddenly you start crying. You go, why am I actually crying right now? It just triggered some emotions. You go, wow, where's this coming from? But I think it's beautiful that, as you said, it's all stored in our body. We just need to allow ourselves to express it and let it out so we can actually leave. But we're just holding on to everything, and that makes us really tight. So by just learning all these relaxations, like we can, you know, move a bit easier through all these emotions.
Winter, like it's funny how you watch body positions of people. In winter, we all come tight and constricted, and then in summer, you know, how we organically open, and that's what I found in the experience of yoga, as well as mindfulness and expressing your emotions. It opens this heart up, like your heart chakra, and so much comes to you as a result. And I suspect, how long have you been a yoga teacher for?
It's 7 years now. So I've been practicing for probably 20 years, and I've been teaching for 7.
From the time that you started practicing, and even when you've been a teacher, is that so much has changed in your life as a result of doing those practices. Is that, you know, how things come with you with ease and grace, whereas before, and this is me reflecting upon my experience, I was always in the masculine, fighting to get things done.
Same.
Whereas it brings this organic ease and grace, and it just gravitates to you organically.
Yeah, so I became a teacher just after the breakup, or a year later. And I guess yoga was a way for me to deal with all my emotions and to take care of myself and to find, you know, this, as we said, this pocket for ourselves. And it was for me going to yoga classes. And the more I learned and the more I felt how good it is for me, the more curious I was to learn more and then become a teacher. Not firstly with the intention to become a teacher, just to learn for myself. But then I was so, I just loved it so much that I just wanted to teach. I wanted to, share it with other people. And I think that was one of the biggest learnings for me, really. Mindfulness and yoga has changed me so much, because I used to be a very reactive person. And my biggest takeaway from yoga and from mindfulness is not being reactive anymore, having the calmness, having the option to just sit back, let things happen, watch them, feel them, and then come back and react whenever I'm ready, and not like in the moment when, and I used to do that. I was like, wow, straight there. Someone said what, and I would just be there. And you know how most of the times we say the wrong things. You make it even worse, because we're just saying what, then we just answer from an ego, I guess. But if we have the ability to sit back and say, well, that's your opinion. Okay, I think about it. I come back tomorrow when it gives us so much power and so much clarity and so much control. Because I think the reactive thing is that we're feeling out of control. But if we don't react, we just sit and wait and, let's see how it feels. And I think about it. And this is really, that feels good, because then we're in control of our emotions and of what we say. We're saying the right things. We're saying what we really mean.
That's true too, because I know I've done the same. I've raged off and said all these things, and later had to run back and apologize. And afterwards, if I actually realized, if I sat down and, like you're saying, with what was going on and just been with that, I would have found the right thing to say and sat in the right place. Because sometimes I'd snapped at people and saying that they were wrong, but they were actually right. Like they were right in what they said. And it's really important that we take that breath and not personalize what's going on. Like when somebody throws energetically something at you too, it also can be down to the fact that there's been a mountain of things that have happened to them. And it could be that they've just snapped at you for no reason at all, because you're as the saying goes, the camel that broke the straw's back. But what I find really important, what you're sharing, is I have to navigate that all the time. And I suspect with your son, I could react and personalize everything that my son does. And as he's regulating his emotions, I can see it as me. And I've had a couple of days because my son is sick, and because we're still breastfeeding, he's on me. I have no space. And all these like fears are coming up. And one of them was like, I'm insignificant. I'm just a mother. Nothing's going on. I can't do anything. All this crap sitting in here. And I could just snap at my son. But I have to do what you're saying. I have to sit there, let it land on me. I was like, I got to breathe. And I realized it's not my son, it's me. And I could have snapped at him and internalized that. But it's really important as we as parents, when something is thrown at us, but we take it in. We realize, for me, I always have to go, okay, he's got a 21-month-old brain, Amberlee. He doesn't know how to negotiate life. I'm the adult here. Well, okay, what is it about me that I'm getting upset? Because there's sometimes that he can have a crazy incident, crying. I never get upset with the joy, funny that. But anything else that's quite emotional. Well, what about me? Why can't I process this at this moment? Because it's never about them. And that's even life. I hear what you're saying. It's everything is about. We just got to, I just think it's beautiful what you just said. You got to sit down, hold it, and then evaluate and go back, because then you don't end up with those regrets.
Because the thing is, something happens, we straight away give it a meaning. But this meaning is often has nothing to do with what we feel. So it's really like interesting. You say something to me, I get angry, but just because, as you said, I gave it a totally different meaning. And I go, oh, wait, I actually thought you mean, but you didn't. And then I can go back, why did I give it this meaning? Oh, because 3 weeks ago, this person said that, and that felt exactly the same. Has nothing to do with that and that, but it's the meaning I gave it. And that's what I usually would respond with. But if I sit back, oh, I gave it this meaning again. Funny, same thing again. I can almost laugh about myself, going, yes, Svenja, you did it again. And then you get yourself all the time, always the same trigger. It always comes back to this one thing that triggers you all your life. Once we get it, we just laugh about it. So, oh my God, I did it again. Funny. Okay. How do I want to feel instead? Instead, I actually want to feel quite calm. What can I do to calm myself down? Why don't I just listen to, some nice music for the next 5 minutes, and then I feel good again? So it's really like getting what's the meaning that we give those things.
Saying, and I think that's something I'm going to go back and do some homework on, is identifying my triggers. Like if I know what my triggers are, I can automatically, I know my fears, like I've got a big list of fears that I have, but I think it's really important that I look at my triggers because I automatically react from that wounded place. I'm wounded, so I'm going to wound you too. But if I know my triggers, I'm liberated and free. And I don't have to, like that's what's blowing my mind away, is that I don't have to react anymore. I can just come from the real me.
And it probably will always be the same 1 or 2 triggers. They always go back to the same thing.
There you go. There's some homework for me. I love learning something. Thank you. You taught me very much. But I know we're getting late, so I want to say a big thank you. But you know what? I love talking about this, is that I met you through the educational platform that we're a part of. Like I had this big dream. I wanted to put this into place. I put it out there in this platform and you responded. And to me, that's and you would say the same thing. Our educational platform that we're a part of is phenomenal, isn't it?
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it blows me away. I wouldn't even know who you were. And we we both work online. We utilize our services in teaching people to become digital freelance marketers like ourselves. But we also get to help people share their messages. Like everybody has a message, and yours is beautiful. And I'm so grateful that I got to share it. And if anybody wants to get in contact with you, how do they go about doing that? Do they find you on Facebook or?
Absolutely. Svenja H. Dahm on Facebook. I think that's the easiest way to use Messenger. Just shoot me a message, respond to this chat here anytime. I love to talk to people, love to hear their story. As you said, I also believe everyone has a story, and by sharing ours, we just encourage other people to share those. And there's always one person that just needs to hear it from you, isn't it? Like there's so many messages we hear and hear and hear them, but you need to hear it from a certain person. And it's always nice when you get this feedback and people say, I just need to hear that today. That's amazing. And just one thing I want to say about, you mentioned the platform we're working with, and being online. I think my biggest takeaway from doing this work is literally overcoming my fear of public speaking and really being able to confidently put myself out there. I had to learn that as a yoga teacher, and that was a big step for me. But really now being online and knowing there's like hundreds and thousands of people that are able to see me and listen to me, that was such a big thing for me. I really had to work through. But I think it's the biggest lesson, the thing that frees up everything. Like once you go through that, you're probably different because you're an actor. You don't have that as much. But a lot of people, it's the biggest fear for them doing this. And for me, it was as well. And I can just only like recommend everyone to just give that a go and really start expressing yourself more freely. It's just such an amazing feeling to really be able to do that.
I love hearing this because you wouldn't know. Listening to you right now, I wouldn't even know you had a fear of doing this because you're so natural and organic and real. And it's just blows my mind away because you wouldn't know. And so people, that's what it does. And for me, it was integrity. So I didn't listen to my intuition. And so I had an intuitive thought and I asked somebody about this and then I started doing it. And then my life changed in such a crazy way because I started following my heart. And that's what I'm doing with you. Because you need to get in front of the camera. You're fucking, I shouldn't swear, but I love swearing anyway. You're fucking natural at it, yeah? You should be doing acting or performing or presenting because you are. And I can hear and feel every word and it's coming through. And you know what? What this platform teaches you is to be authentically you. And you don't have to try to be anybody else or anything else. You just get to be you.
And I think that's everyone's lessons, isn't it? It's so empowering. It's really empowering. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I'll go get my step here. Thank you so much for today. You are a superstar. And
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I know everybody else is here. You go and enjoy your Wednesday. And like I said, I'm blown away. You wouldn't even know that you had the fear of doing this because you're so good at it. Okay.
A year ago, I would have died to do that. Thank you so much.
That's all right. Well, if you like like I said, reach out to Svenja or myself, comment below. If you're watching the replay, put replay. We'd love to hear from you. God bless. Goodbye, Rochelle. And we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.